So today I'm going to show you how to use a seam ripper. This is a tool that every sewer has in their arsenal. They pretty much come with every sewing machine that you buy. But a lot of people don't really understand how to use them properly, and there's an awful lot of sort of sneering remarks that I've seen on places like Facebook and blogs about people who just don't know how to use them, and I have to admit I was one of those people for quite a long time that just didn't know how to use it. So I thought I would help everybody else out that doesn't quite know and show you what some very kind person showed me in a shop in Utah. For today's exercise I'm going to be using my Seam Fix seam ripper. It's my favourite one in the whole world. However, they do not sponsor me, they don't know I'm doing this, I've received no money for this, so this will probably come as a bit of a shock to them. So I'm going to start by taking you through the basic parts of the seam ripper and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's just start by looking at the basic anatomy of a seam ripper. So the way I've got it set up here is exactly the way you should be running it through your seams. That's to say that this sharp pointy bit here, that's going to go on the underside of the seam, and this bit with the red blob of paint on it just here is going to go on the upper side. Now they don't all have that red blob of paint, but for the most part they do. The actual cutting bit is the bit that's this sort of U-shaped bit in between the sharp pointy bit and the bit with the red paint. These are all highly technical terms, you understand. When you're using it, if you use it the other way up, you may end up jamming that sharp pointy bit into your finger. I may have done this 1 or 2 times before somebody showed me I was using it upside down. So let me save you the pain here and now. Okay, so now that we've seen how the thing is set up, we're actually going to use one. To start with, you're going to need a block that needs to be ripped. This particular one offended me greatly earlier this week, so the whole thing is coming apart now. And the first thing that you need to do is press the fabric back to the way it was before you pressed your seams. So if you press your seams to the side or if you press them open, it doesn't matter. They really need to be back so that the 2 pieces you sewed together are right sides together with that seam flat above it. The next thing you're going to do is take your seam ripper, and remember you're going to have your pointy bit underneath here, like that, and you're going to just hold on to the fabric and run this all the way along here. You can hear it rip, and you can see there's sort of fluff that's left in here which you can remove out, and there's also some bits of thread that are attached on here. So I'll show you how to get rid of those now with the other trusty end of my Seam Fix seam ripper. Okay, so you've ripped, and now's the time to get rid of those pesky bits of thread. So you're going to put the end back on your seam ripper. Actually, you can use the lid on its own, it doesn't really matter, it's just you've got something more to hold if you put it back on the body. And then you're going to run the rubber end here just over that, and that's just going to pick up all those bits of thread all the way along, and that's you've got a nice clean seam, and when you take the fabric off you've not got lots of bits of fluff kicking around. There you go, now you know how to use a seam ripper. Okay, so I can hear you say now, that's all well and good, now I know how to rip apart a seam, but there are other uses for seam rippers as well, and one of the main ones for quilters is actually unpicking quilting that doesn't really float your boat. Now, if you're really lucky, the reason you're unpicking it is because you had a tension problem and one side is really easy to pull out. However, in this case the tension was perfectly fine, it was just me that wasn't happy with what I'd done. It's possibly a salutary lesson in why you shouldn't do quilting late on a Saturday night. Anyway, when you come to unpick this, you can unpick just 1 stitch at a time. Just stick your seam ripper under the next stitch that you can see that's been formed and pull it out. However, it can be quite time consuming if you're doing 1 at a time. So my suggestion is to actually go, 2 or 3 stitches down the line like this, and just get your seam ripper under there and just pull through. Now sometimes it breaks, sometimes it comes out in one piece. If it breaks, you just pull it out yourself, set the thread to one side and keep going a few at a time. When you do this, you'll find that the other side will actually just pull out. It unravels completely because it's just waiting for you to get rid of what's holding it in place. And now you know the other way to use a seam ripper.